Buddy, or good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be around the globe, chiming in, listening in, tuning in. Welcome to the Vet SOS podcast. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the Vet SOS lifeline. My name is Keith. I think starting to maybe be somewhat of a regular now is filling in for or replacing Eric as the co-host, but he's still with us because Sean is. I think we've officially sent the military police after him for malingering and AWOL. We're at week 5 now. I think
I think so. Yeah.
He has officially ditched us. But I got some tickets to go dig him up, or not dig him up, scoop him up next week. We're gonna have him back out here. But it's great to be with you all. The Vet SOS is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and is a proud member of the Parade Deck community. Vet SOS can now be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. And you can find Reach Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and the TuneIn app. We are excited to be sitting down with Beau Higgins of Oplign. This is going to be a great conversation. I can't wait to jump in on this one. But before we do, Eric, it is great to have you back again this week. I guess it's supposedly supposed to be your last one. We'll see.
We'll see.
If we can get Sean off that couch, I'm not sure. He may be permanently imprinted into it at this point. But how you doing tonight?
Brother, I am blessed far beyond what I deserve. But man, like it says on my thing, man, this is the last one as the temp for a while. You know how Sean is. He likes to take breaks and not work hard. And so I may have to come back on and save him again. But I'm happy to be here. I am super excited to be able to sit down with my good friend Beau and learn all about Oplign. This is Beau and I. Beau is actually, and I don't know if you know this or not, Beau, but you were one of the very first people I spoke to when I started a career in transition and employment for veterans. So I've been following Beau and watching and trying to learn from his example for a long time. So glad that you're here, brother.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me today, and we're looking forward to chatting and sharing hopefully some good knowledge out there.
Absolutely. So we'll read a quick introduction for you, and then really we're going to kick it over to you because this is your show, and we want you to be able to get out everything that all the great things that you're doing. So Beau is a retired Marine that served for 25 years as an intelligence officer with the Marine Corps. He had the privilege to command the 1st Recon Battalion and Headquarters Battalion, 2nd Marine Division. Following his retirement in 2014, Beau served as a senior manager on Amazon's military affairs team, responsible for creating scalable veteran programs, developing policies and strategic planning for military recruiting and outreach efforts. I am tongue-tied on this episode tonight. Beau left Amazon in April of 2023 and focused his career on helping companies find veteran talent. He is currently serving as the VP for talent acquisition in the Arcadia Group, and he's dedicated to supporting leaders, businesses, and organizations in developing and executing comprehensive talent acquisition strategies, executive searches, and services using an integrative, relationship-centered, and strategic lens. Beau, how you doing tonight?
I am doing great. It's great to be here, and again, appreciate the opportunity to share some of what my experience working in the veteran hiring landscape. So great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about this episode. I kind of work in the same space. I'm on the federal side. Don't hold that against me. We have the cookies and milk over here. But I do. Yeah, I'm the Veterans Program Manager for a federal agency. Won't make a shameless plug to them, at least just yet. But I'd love to just kind of learn. Before we get into the awesome things you're doing right now, what was that transition like for you? What kind of happened, and maybe what started to even lay some of the groundwork for what you're doing now?
No, for sure. Happy to kind of share my process and hopefully it can help some other folks in their transition. So I retired from the Marine Corps 10 years ago in June. And I probably had, I don't know if it's that different, but a somewhat different transition than most, in that I really enjoyed the transition process. To me, I like to network. I like to talk to people. It's something that I have no problem with. And, probably 6 months out, I just started talking to friends of mine, high school buddies, college buddies, Marines that had gotten out or other service members that had gotten out, family members, and just figuring out what's out there. Because I think, when you're in the military, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I had buddies, for example, that were in commercial real estate. I'm like, hey, all right, I get it. you sell buildings, but what do you do? Like, what is that? Like, what is a day in the life of a commercial real estate guy, right? I mean, you're in banking or finance. Like, okay, I get it. Money, people need money. You're getting them money. What just trying to understand what people did, because I knew what I did in the Marine Corps, but I had no idea what people. I knew their titles, but I really didn't know what it meant. So I spent a good bit of time just talking to people, and I think that process of really figuring out as much what you don't want to do as you're figuring out what you do want to do is huge, right? For me, I knew when I was retiring that I was going to come back to Tampa, Florida. So my shot group was tightened up locationally, which is, I think it can be good, can be bad, but at least I had a kind of a tightened up shot group because of that. I knew pretty quickly I did not want to go back and be a GS and go on the government side. That was something I had opportunity to, but didn't want to do that. I wanted to get into what I loosely called operations. And again, just started talking to people, and one person would lead to another, and another conversation led to another conversation. And again, there's a great TED talk called 50 Cups of Coffee, and I'm a believer in that. Going out there and just having a cup of coffee with somebody. And people are happy to tell their story. They like to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves, So don't go in there asking for a job. Go to your buddies and say, "Hey, what do you do? I'm interested in what you're doing. Let's catch up and have a cup of. I'll buy a cup of coffee." And people, 99% of the time, people are more than happy to do that, because I get the fact that transition is scary for a lot of people. And I make the analogy that transition it's like the Shawshank Redemption, right? You get institutionalized in the military, right? You know your rank, you have your uniform, you fit in, and you know how to get things done, right? You know how to, get your orders or get a Humvee or whatever you need to do. You know where you fit in, and when all that goes away, and you're kind of by yourself, like, well, what do I do now? Nobody's telling me what to do. I'm not getting older. My monitor's not telling me what job I have to go to next. I got to figure all this out. It can be scary. So I understand that it is scary, but I think the good news story is there are people like, all of us out there to help folks that are looking to transition. And people people want to help you get a job, but you do have to take the first step. You have to ask, right? They're not going to necessarily come to you. If you're willing to ask, you can drown in a sea of goodwill, right? I mean, that's it's a challenge. Almost, you can get too much information, but you have to take the first step. Go out there, be a little bit vulnerable, and just say, "Hey, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I don't know. I know I'm going to be leaving the military. Start sooner rather than later, right? Start more than 6 months out. Just talking to people about what might be out there. And again, one thing leads to another, and it works. I mean, networking works. It's there for a reason. People think it's a dirty word sometimes, but that's it's effective for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that, but we both got we both got you with a bomb on that one.
Yeah,
that's what we call a double bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like it. I think I like it, Beau, when I hear people say that they enjoyed the transition process, right? And I think it does a couple of things. First and foremost, I think sharing our stories is super valuable, right? Sharing what we've each been through individually. But I also think it's super helpful to hear for people who are getting ready to go through transition to hear that it's possible to enjoy it, right? There are so many stories out there of people hating their transition story, and it being this horrific thing that went on. And that's what, unfortunately, what gets focused on, because those are the people that are hurting, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, like, it doesn't have to. There are processes and ways and organizations and people that you can connect with and link in with and link shields with that will make it easier.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. I mean, I think that's the challenge, and on the other side of that coin is that there can almost be too much, right? I think that's also part of the what causes so many transitioning veterans to kind of shut down is, like, you're getting bombarded with information, and you're like, where do I start? Do I do my resume? Do I go interviewing? Do I need a suit? Do I benefits? It can kind of be overwhelming. So it's you. That's the I think that's why it's so important to start early in the process. Start a year out if you can, 9 months out if you can, because too many people, and we all have seen these guys, right? That they are working till their last day in uniform, and they're hanging on by their fingernails to that desk, and they don't want to go, right? And then all of a sudden it's gone and they've done nothing, and you're like, now that's the guy that has the biggest problem. If you do that and you're like, I'm ignoring that I'm getting out of the military, and then all of a sudden it's there, then you're in trouble, right? Then you haven't done your homework, and then you're gonna be one of those horror stories. But even if you don't like networking, if you start early, you can get used like anything. None of us know how to ride a bike when we were 2 years old, right? You just figure it out. You get used to it. It gets to be routine. And again, one conversation turns into another, and then you kind of learn what questions to ask, and that person connects you somewhere else. And I mean, it's a proven winner, but I get you have to start somewhere, and the sooner you start, the better.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that people have to have the boldness to start and the endurance to continue. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's funny because you're reminding me in my transition, like I started somewhat later, but it wasn't for a lack of not wanting to plan. I put all my eggs. I was the guy that put all my eggs in one basket, and then that basket shattered. And when it did shatter, I was already several, like 6-8 months into that process, and so I had only about 6 or 7 months to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up all over again, because suddenly I couldn't be what I wanted to be. And so, that sea of goodwill, I guess you could call it, the 47,000 nonprofits that are out there for us. It's overwhelming as all get out. We could go on all day, but I'm just curious. So, I've done a little bit of my own research, but tell us about Oplign. What are the folks out there? What can they benefit from with that organization?
Yeah, so okay, obviously, I left Amazon a little over a year ago, and when I was at Amazon, we used this Oplign tool a bunch to help us hire veterans. And what Oplign does, in a nutshell, is it's an MOS translator that works. Right, in its simplest form, right? So, as a veteran or military spouse or student veteran, you enter in your rank, your MOS, your years of service. Based on that, it will ask you contextually relevant questions. So if you're a combat engineer, you'll have different questions if you're a data guy, or if you're an O311 grunt or a SWO, right? So based on what you say you are, it will ask you questions, and it will build you basically a skills-based resume based on that, right? On the other side of the tool, if you will, we are sucking in tens of thousands of jobs from companies, nationwide, and we're taking their basic and preferred job descriptions, and we're turning those into ones and zeros. So we know what the market is asking for, because an SDE at Amazon is pretty similar to an SDE at Boeing, or the skills are what people are asking for. So you take a skills-based resume, you see what skills companies are asking for, and this tool matches it together. So as a candidate, you build this profile, and if you're a fit, it will get your resume will get pushed into a queue of multiple companies. So if you have the experience that Amazon or J&J or USAA or Wells Fargo is looking for, you'll be in the queue of those sourcers and recruiters that are looking for veteran talent. You also have the ability through Oplign to go and apply directly into a company's CRM. But even if you don't finish the application, that company at least now has your data, because you've built that skills-based resume. So that's what it does from the candidate side. From the customer side, and again, Amazon's a customer, as is Boeing, Verizon, USA, Wells Fargo, J&J, and down the line. From a recruiter standpoint, every morning as a recruiter, you can open up your Oplign tool. It will have a list of veteran talent that's in there. All of them I call it a combine score, but it's relevancy to demand. So basically the best candidate is on top of your list and kind of down the line, right? And you can search that list for just people that have a TSSCI with poly, or just folks that have a CDL or HVAC or maintenance, whatever you want to search. So from a sourcing and recruiting side of the house, non-veteran recruiters can quickly use this tool to understand what a veteran has done without understanding what a 40XX is, or a 21 Bravo. Civilians are never going to get that. This tool just turns them, a veteran's information into skills that a non-veteran recruiter or sourcer can understand. So it just it brings those things together in an exchange, basically, and that's the beauty of the tool. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is an incredibly cool tool. Especially for somebody who doesn't have one of those jobs that is kind of clear as to how it translates, right? when you talk about your folks that are mechanics, that well, of course that translates because that's a real job. But you start talking about some of your combat arms folks, right? Having an opportunity to have those skills dissected and pulled aside and kind of, for lack of better terms, flipped on their heads, right? Translated into civilianese so that they can understand. Like that's a really valuable thing. I do have a question for you, and this is kind of off the cuff, but I'm curious what Beau Higgins' take is on this. When you're talking to companies, right? We all know that a veteran wants to find a job. That's the no-brainer.
Yep.
Transition service members who want to work or need to work want to work and need to work. So when we talk to companies who maybe don't have a touch point with veterans, don't have a robust veteran hiring program, don't have a robust or a veteran hiring programs manager, what would you say to companies that say, well, then why do I want to hire? If all this work has to be put into this, why do I want to hire a veteran? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the value of a veteran over other candidates. I mean, look, there's some things that are just a given, right? They show up on time, they're hard workers, but I get that's like the apple pie stuff. I get that.
Right.
To me, the reason I valued veterans at Amazon in particular was because they brought not diversity of skin color or diversity of race, but diversity of thought.
There you go.
They think differently. They see problems differently. And that was huge to me because, again, you have folks that don't have the experience of a veteran. They're going to kind of, a lot of times, see the problems and answer it the same way. But a veteran is, not all veterans are created equal, but many veterans are used to doing more with less, not having a lot of resources and figuring things out, kind of being giving kind of mission type orders like, okay, we got to get from here to there. There you go. Right. And that's what you need in the real world, right? That's how it is. People aren't there to tell you what to do every day. You got to figure it out. And veterans are very good, in my opinion, of having that diversity of thought and just problem solving. And that to me is something, and that's one, and 1A is grit, right? They don't quit. Like they will bang their head against the wall for a long time to get through it. I mean, they just have grit. They're gonna keep on pushing till the job is done. So you add that ability to solve problems well with the grit factor, and that's something special.
Yeah, I've always told folks, if you can think of a soldier or a Marine or airman or sailor, like their job is to fight and win America's wars. Like that's their job. Let's boil everything down. Your job is to go out and do this thing. And when you get guys and gals that have been able to do that, and like you said, it's a dangerous thing to say, right? We've done less, or we've done more with less. Like we consistently can do more with less. But if you look at a company, you say, but imagine if you gave them all the resources.
Yeah.
Imagine if you take somebody who can go out and do this unimaginable thing with less. Imagine what they could do if you provided them all the resources, if you gave them the support, if you had the technology, whatever it is. But I love the grit thing is I think that's the intangible that I think a lot of people miss with veterans.
Yep.
Because it's not something I can put on a resume.
Right.
I can't show grit on a resume. But it takes advocates like you out there to tell them that.
And I'll say this: the one thing about the Oplign tool is that we don't say do you have grit or not, but what we have seen is you're 0311, you're just a infantryman, Marine, you're coming out as a corporal or a sergeant. You're like, well, what can I do? I mean, I've perfected being homeless over the last 4 years. I can live to my back in the rain, right? What does that translate to, right? Well, it translates, right? For example, power companies love those guys, right? Why? They're not afraid to work in the rain at heights. They can work hungover. They'll show every day. I mean, that's something they want, and they can't find those guys. So, your typical infantryman may not think that I can go work for Dominion Power, but you can, and they want you. And this tool, because we've done it enough, the AI machine learning part of it has kind of said, okay, if you have this skill, we're going to ask you these things because you probably wouldn't think it, but we know you have it, and companies want it. So that's the beauty of the tool in a lot of ways.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, and I love this. So when you talk about the AI helps these folks, basically generate a resume, and you say we help you. So are you saying you help people tailor the resume after the AI kind of help generate the baseline?
It's not even a resume. Like every skill set you click that you have
Mm,
is a bullet point that is a skill. So when you finish your Oplign
sure.
profile, you have it's a skills based resume because it'll just say like is proficient in Python, is proficient in this, has a
Yep.
driver's license, has this clearance. I mean, it's just the facts, right? But
Sure.
but also says I've done maintenance job for 5 years, can drive a forklift. It's not saying I was the command safety program leader for 6 months and got like, well, I don't know what that means, but I know what it means when it says you drove a forklift, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want,
Yeah.
right? So it just
Right.
takes out the fluffiness of resumes, which I hate to read because most of them don't say anything, or they take a long time to say not a lot. This is just boils it
Exactly.
down to what skills do you have, right? If and
Yeah.
because the companies are saying out in the open every day, they are telling you what the basic and preferred job qualifications they want. That's out there,
Yeah.
and the veterans just don't know how. They don't oftentimes they don't do a good job of looking at that, or they have to
Hmm.
write a million resumes. A resume is a love letter to one job, right? So you got to write about 1,000 of them, then I'll tweak them a little. This do this one time, and it's going to push you to multiple companies that you're a fit for. That's the beauty of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I ask is like, yeah, I was kind of thinking along the same lines. Like, as a hiring manager, I don't care what you've done.
Right.
I don't like what you've done is not what you're bringing to me. So, that classic military leadership bullet we see on all the resumes, senior leader responsible for the care and welfare of 250 soldiers. Well, if you were such a toxic leader that 5 of those soldiers got DWIs because they were drinking on the job, and you had the worst retention rate in the entire regiment, I
Yeah.
don't want that toxicity in my ranks. So,
Exactly.
the importance of being able to also, what was the result, right? Because that's what
Yep.
you're actually bringing to me. If I hire you, so it's like the skills, but also what did those skills produce? What results did they produce? So, no, this is an amazing thing. So I see you wearing the shirt, so I got to ask. I know
Yeah.
you're involved with the Travis Manion Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that. What do you do with them?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know Travis Manion, Travis was a Naval Academy grad, and he was in First Recon. He's one of my Marines when he was killed by a sniper. So, super personal story to me, having been there since the day he was killed, and the family. His dad, Tom Manion, was a Marine colonel, and they wanted to keep his legacy going. So Tom and Janet, his mom, and his sister Ryan, it started small as many of these things do, and they were their first year they just wanted to go and like keep his memory alive by running the Marine Corps marathon, because Travis said he was going to do it with his dad when he got back from Iraq, and obviously got killed and didn't do that. But from there it's grown exponentially, and they have this mantra, if not me, then who? Right?
Right.
If not me, then who? And that just resonated with me as well. It's like, we all have to step up and do our part, and nobody, I can't look to there's nobody coming to help me out here every day. It's me. I gotta be the one that steps up and make it happen. That just resonated with me a ton. And there's a lot of ways you can get involved with the foundation. The foundation supports families of the fallen, Gold Star families, but they also have a program called Character Does Matter, where you can become an ambassador, with Travis Manion Foundation, and go speak at local schools or local kind of organizations to kids about character and the importance of character. And they also they host a series of 9/11 heroes runs. So I've been the race director for a 9/11 heroes run here in Tampa for about 10 years, and I'm actually starting one in New Orleans this year, September 14th, Audubon Park, New Orleans, Louisiana. If you're there, come sign up. But I love that too, because I think people can tend to forget 9/11. I mean, for us that lived it, I mean, this is kind of a sidebar, but I was in Australia on 9/11, with the MEU, and I was in Afghanistan by November of '01. So again, 9/11 is a day that we all have our memories. And for me, it was like the pinnacle of my Marine Corps career, like going to fight for this country, because of 9/11. I was in Afghanistan, in November of '01. Awesome. But the 9/11 piece of the Travis Manion Foundation, again, they host these runs not only to remember 9/11, but I love my when I talk about the 9/11 piece, I talk about 9/12 as well. And the feeling this country had on 9/12, that feeling of unity that I don't know if we'll ever have it again, to be sadly candid, but that was a special time and a special place. And I think we can't forget what 9/11 and the impact that it had on so many people, but that camaraderie and that unity we had as a country on 9/12. But yeah, great foundation. And again, if everybody's interested, you can always reach out to me, and I'd be happy to talk more about Travis Manion Foundation all day long.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's a fantastic foundation, with a really cool mission and a really neat and unique opportunity for those of us who understand selfless service and who want to be a part of a solution, right? Like, I mean, Beau, you said it, I can't necessarily look to my left and right and figure out who's going to come help me. And that's maybe a sad statement, right? So it takes guys like us and gals like us to be able to step up and say, hold on, no, there is somewhere you can look. Nobody wants a handout, but man, a hand up, somebody to sit there and be like, no, I'm gonna link shields with you. We're gonna navigate this together. But I think one of my favorite things is the opportunity to get involved with the schools and talk to the youth, because it's become such a cliche saying to say, the children are our future, and that became it's got to stop being a cliche and start being a truth. And we have to start thinking about what it is that we are. What are we raising, right? What is it? What a culture are we raising? Are we going to raise men and women of character? And so to be involved with something like that, I think is just absolutely incredible. Man, yeah, I'm a big fan of Travis Manion.
Yeah,
the foundation.
I'm not a fan of the races though. I don't
know. So that was one thing. Even when I was in, my soldiers used to ask me, hey, First Sergeant, this running thing, are we gonna? I was like, look, man, I'm not built to run, right? I'm built to be run from. That was my answer.
I think can we do a lifting competition?
Yeah, we can lift. I'm in all day.
I swore when I retired from the Army I would never do another push-up, do another sit-up, or run more than a quarter mile ever again in my life, and I've held true to that. But I will lift heavy things all day long.
Yeah.
So
hey, we need volunteers for the races too. So you can come out there and volunteer. And I'm really good. I'm a big guy. I'm really good at moving heavy stuff. That's if you move the piano, I'm your guy. Let's go.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I fortunately had two doctors after 2 knee surgeries both tell me that there's no more running, and I might have been the only person in the hospital that got excited.
Yeah, right.
I was like, thank you. I no longer have to make an excuse. I'm just gonna say, Doc said I can't run.
I said I can't do it. Yeah,
I'm laminating this chit, baby. It's going. I'm laminating it. It's true. Can't do it.
Oh man, I can't believe it. But we are just about out of time, brother.
Yeah.
This has gone too fast.
Having fun. It's great.
That's right. Dude, listen, thank you so much, Beau, for not just the work you do with Oplign or the work you do with Travis Manion Foundation, but for being a dude that a lot of us can look up to, right? For being a man of character that we can look up to, that we can see an example of how we get involved, for a man that to be an example of what actionable steps look like to be a part of a solution. There's so many of us that are broken and hurting and struggling. And so to know that we have someone out there that we can look to as an example is awesome. And so thank you for that, brother. I really do appreciate it.
No, hey, it's great being here today. And again, none of us do this alone, right? We all need help at some point in time. We're all fighting our own demons in some way, shape, or form. And I'm a big believer in trying to keep your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and it's all ties together, right? And we can all fall on those pieces. So we can't do it alone. But I just hit my wife and I had our 30th wedding anniversary this week. So again, I would not be here also without her support too. So again, I did not do this alone. But I love doing these type of shows, because it's about setting the elevator back down, right? People help me get to where I am. Now I want to help other people, get where they are to where I am now. So
absolutely.
Keep it, pay it forward. It's all about,
Awesome. Well, hey, brother, listen, I know there's the website and things like that. Your LinkedIn are rolling down the bottom. And hopefully, if you have not written those down yet, you need to write them down. As a listener or as a viewer, but for those of us who maybe want to figure out, is there another way that folks can contact you? What's the best place for the audience to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn by far, I'm on there every day.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty good, I'm pretty widely, used LinkedIn. I would say the other thing that I do that we didn't talk about much today, but I'm also part of this group called Arcadia Group. We do some executive recruiting, primarily looking at venture capital and private equity firms. So
Okay.
I have my hands in a lot of different pies out there. I do consulting work to help companies build their veteran hiring. So again, if you're looking to network into a company somewhere, no matter what the space is, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to, help out any way I can. My network is your network. So there.
I love it. Yeah, you told me that a long time ago, and I've always appreciated that. All right. Well, listen, Beau, on behalf of the Vet SOS family, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. And listen, have a great rest of your week. We love you, brother. We're grateful. And for the rest of you guys that have been listening, thank you so much to everyone that's joined us. Please make sure to follow and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab that Vet SOS lifeline. You have a great day.